Not only is there the need for new homes to be built better, well above code to international standards, there's also the renovation area, which gets forgotten about, I think. We have recently or ongoing doing up our home. It's a 1974, or the base of the house is 1974, up on piles, brick veneer, no insulation, no vapour barriers in the walls. So we've just gone through methodically, and each room we've gone through and changed linings, insulated, vapour barriers, all things from the inside, ventilation systems or balanced ventilation systems. We've got a job coming up where the client is doing it in a piecemeal sort of way, just as he can afford it, and that's going to be room by room, and we're going to do each room, strip it back to its framing, insulate it, service cavities, air tightness layers, and all things being equal will end up being a balanced ventilation system put in as well, which is the most important thing, is to have warm, healthy air, because he's had some allergic reactions to either the carpet or just whatever's floating around up in the roof space. The good thing about renovations is you don't have to do the whole thing at once. You can just attack it systematically and room by room. So start with your bedrooms, get a feel for what you need in that room. You can strip the wall linings off, re-insulate if you have to, do service cavities or vapour barriers, air tightness layers. Think about your end goal, which is most important, because people can have a one-track mind and go, I'm doing this room, not doing this, but not thinking about the whole picture, which is the most important thing.
30% of the consultation I do at the council are about renovation, or what we called also deep retrofit. So basically we go from simply adding insulation in the walls and the ceiling and changing a little bit of the layout to stripping the building out and then redoing completely the thermal envelope and thinking differently. So we can go from like the base minimum to the best, depending on the budget and the willingness and the time. So there's a lot of work to do in this area. So let's make something clear. A renovation is not just about painting or changing your kitchen, right? It's way deeper than that. And then when you're doing a renovation, you don't have necessarily to renovate everything all the time. And then it's very important to trying to target what's most important for you and then action on that. But you also have to think about the future and what can you do right now to future-proof your house for later.
There are some challenges with renovating an old home. I guess the first principles are work needs to be done well. And in order to achieve a super home status for a renovation, there are certain targets that need to be met. One of the more difficult things to achieve is air tightness. So air tightness in an existing home is quite a challenge. And there are ways of going about this, and one of those ways is to strip back the interior linings and to ensure that the joinery, the windows and doors, are sealed into the frame. And then there's going to be the challenge of stopping the air movement inside to out, and a blower door test will test ultimately at the end how many air changes there are at 50 pascals and how often that happens per hour. And so to achieve a super home standard for better in this home, we achieve 2 air movements per hour. In a renovation, that's going to be quite a challenge. It will require an airtight membrane, an tallow membrane on the inside. It will need specific attention around light switches and openings, around bottom plate fixings, ceiling connections. There's a number of things so it's quite a challenge. You've got to have a building company who is committed to that level of detail. And there's a number of those things with renovation is all the more crucial because you're starting with an imperfect frame, and it's difficult. You'll never make it perfect, and so you've got to have a mindset to understand what are the key differences.
When you look at the carbon, embodied carbons in building a new building, and the embodied carbons that would be involved if you just renovated an existing building, the embodied carbons that are used are a lot less. And so it's always encouraging to get the client to retrofit an existing structure. Depending on their budget, I mean, you can, you can do some pretty cool stuff with a fairly small budget. There's lots of ways that you can improve a building, whether it's removing the internal linings and insulating from the inside, or whether it's leaving all the inside, removing the exterior cladding, insulating from the outside, putting a rigid air barrier over it, and then putting a new cladding systems over a cavity. That's what we did to our place. We left all the existing internal linings. We removed all of the external cladding, just wall by wall, and re-insulated, rigid air barrier, and then new claddings over cavities. And it's just made such a difference. It is amazing what you can actually achieve when you do an alteration with a client. And what I've found lately is with the current downturn with new homes, there's more clients that are actually doing alterations just because they don't have the budget to build a new home. So they're staying in the existing homes and they're altering them and making them better. Because a lot of people, when they're in a place they like to stay there, but they just want to make the house better. So yeah, a lot of my work is alterations. The great thing is that there are ways that it can be done. It doesn't matter what the house is, there are ways to fix it. If it's damp and moldy, then just by putting insulation in, getting in a good ventilation system, making sure the claddings are on a cavity, maybe putting some new windows in so we get a bit more sun into the house. If we're getting buildings where there's overheating, then making sure we put shade in place so that we prevent the overheating. There's a solution pretty much for everything. It's just a matter of sitting down and working with the client and working out what we need to do to come up with a plan.